3 miles up the River Thames from the centre of Oxford, some distance from where the great colleges of Jordan, Gabriel, Balliol, and 2 dozen others contended for mastery in the boat races, out where the city was only a collection of towers and spires in the distance over the misty levels of Portmeadow, there stood the Priory of Godstow, where the gentle nuns went about their holy business, and on the opposite bank from the priory there was an inn called the Trout. Hi, this is Memo, and we are talking about La Belle Sauvage, the prequel nobody asked for to Philip Pullman's His Dark Materials trilogy. And there will be no spoilers in this one. Are you intrigued by prequels that give you answers to questions such as how did Han Solo get his name? Spoiler alert, a random TSA officer gave it to him. Here's another prequel that will give you answers to the questions that you never ask. La Belle Sauvage takes place about 10 years before the original trilogy, when Lyra is still a baby. If you don't know who Lyra is the protagonist of the original trilogy, and if you haven't read the original trilogy, you should just skip this book and just read the original trilogy. It is a much better way to get introduced to this world. It is a much more imaginative story. It is one of my favorite books all time. Each book is so imaginative. It keeps throwing super interesting ideas at you. But the third book was kind of meh. Fine. The third book was kind of meh. Can you just let me have this? Can I just enjoy this one thing without ruining it? I read the original books many years ago, and I'm not planning on rereading them because I don't want to ruin them for myself. My tastes might have changed over the years, but whatever I remember from them is that they were fantastic. And if you haven't read them yet, I strongly recommend you go read them. Now let's get to this book. La Belle Sauvage follows Malcolm, who's a 12-year-old kid working in his dad's bar, and he has a boat named La Belle Sauvage. Why was the name of the boat La Belle Sauvage? I don't even remember. If you're looking for great annotations, well-planned, well-thought, coherent reviews, this is not the channel for you. I'm pretty sure Malcolm cannot speak French. Why would he name his boat La Belle Sauvage? Because he's pretentious? I'm actually going to check. Advantages of ebooks. You can search things. It was his uncle's bar, so he named his boat after his uncle's bar. It's just a random name. Alright. La Belle Sauvage is part of a new trilogy called The Book of Dust. Philip Pullman calls it an equal, but this first book is indeed a prequel. The second book is apparently going to be 10 years after the events of the third book. So Lyra will be in that book and she will be in her 20s. I'm super excited about that book. I got this book when it was released. I think it was a couple of years ago, but I just finished it recently. I almost DNF'd it, but then I found out the second book is going to be 10 years after the events of the third book. So I thought, I guess I need to finish this to be able to read the second book. I don't even know when the second book is being released, maybe sometime in fall. Malcolm's a smart, curious kid. He also helps the nuns at the monastery in their town. One day someone brings a baby and leaves at the monastery. Malcolm is really curious about this baby, and for some reason he just really cares about the baby. And that baby, as you might have guessed, is Lyra. Have you had enough fan service? No? Well, guess who brings Lyra to the monastery? Lord Asriel himself. Are there witches in this book? Damn straight there are. For like 5 seconds or something. Alright, here's the thing. I like fan service as much as anyone. Meaning I read it and I kind of go like, huh. And one person from that other thing. Guess what? This book does not disappoint in fan service. But are any of them meaningful? So if you don't know anything about the original trilogy, I would like to initiate you into this world a little bit. This is a very interesting world. In this universe, each person has an entity with them called their demon, which is represented as an animal. Demons of children can shapeshift into various different animals, but at some point in their life, they just stop shifting and take a permanent form. Just like me and my demon Perry. That's right, my demon is a platypus. Say hi, Perry. It is a very interesting concept because in this world, no one is ever truly alone. You always have your demon with you. And your demon is not a separate being. They are part of you. You share your thoughts, but they also speak. You can only get separated to a certain distance from your demon, and then it starts hurting painfully. Your demon is also somewhat of a reflection of your personality. For example, the not so subtle villain of this book has a hyena demon. And this is one of the important problems in this book. The villain is just this crazy, evil guy that's out there to get ya. The first part of this book is Malcolm being a spy, going to the monastery, taking care of Lyra, and then going to meet that other woman bringing her information. The real plot kicks in at the 2/3 of the book or something, when a flood comes and suddenly stakes are a little bit higher. There is one unlikely friendship that forms that I didn't see coming, and that was a strong point of this book for me. That relationship developing, and the moments of intimacy between that character and Malcolm were the highlights of this book for me. But those moments were just so far in between, and really apart from Malcolm there isn't any other interesting characters that you would care about, apart from that other character that I wouldn't expect would play a major part in the story. If you're looking for more lore into this incredibly imaginative world, I don't think you will find that either. It looks like the book will go into more detail about dust, but it really doesn't. It does talk a little bit about human-demon relationship, but nothing major that you didn't see in the original trilogy. I am guessing this book was written to introduce Malcolm, so that in the second book Lyra and Malcolm can meet, and then we can feel like we knew both of them since they were children. But Malcolm's story is nowhere near as interesting or as captivating as Lyra's story was. As I said, even though I loved the original trilogy, I had an incredibly hard time going through this book. If you haven't read the original trilogy and you read this book first, I'm sure you still found it very interesting, and that's because of the incredible world building. The world of the story is amazing, and it takes you in and it captivates you. I would still say you should get introduced to this world with the original trilogy instead of this book. The world in the original trilogy is also vast. You will get to see more of this world. You will get to see more interesting characters. So when it comes to the rating, I just have to say, sure. I mean, I guess it's still that imaginative, interesting world. But even if you're a fan of the original trilogy, I would say maybe wait until the second book is released. Not that there's any cliffhangers or incredible ending to this book or anything that you will not be able to wait until the second book comes. Maybe it's just best to just read it together with the second book so that you will know about Malcolm's character. And I am assuming Malcolm is going to be in the second book, because if not, then this book would be a whole waste. The only reason this book's existence makes any sense to me is developing the character of Malcolm. Let's wait until the second book comes, and then we'll check in later and see how we like that one. And until then, if you haven't read the original trilogy, go read that. There is a horrible movie. Skip that. BBC is developing a new TV series based on the original book. I'm really excited about that. James McAvoy is playing Lord Asriel, and it looks like it has an incredible cast. I mean, the original movie had a decent cast too, but it was really, really bad. It was, oh my god, I can't even. Oh, we haven't talked about the cover of the book. It's kind of meh. Like everything about this book. The cover is kind of meh. There's a storm on the cover. There's a boat. There are two kids in the boat. One is Malcolm, the other is the other kid. They're sailing. It's blue. I am kind of biased towards prequels. I cannot think of any prequels that I like. Because as a writer, when you're writing a story, you're building your world, you're thinking about your character's backstory, and then you pick that perfect moment to start your story. If there were anything more interesting before that, you would just start the story back then. Also, if you can think of any good prequels, please comment down as well and I'll check them out. I want to challenge myself. Prove me wrong. But the rule is the prequel cannot have been written before the original book. For example, Hobbit is a prequel to The Lord of the Rings, but The Hobbit was indeed written before The Lord of the Rings, so it doesn't count. So it has to have been written after the original story. Alright, that's it from me and my Demon Perry for today, and I'll see you next time.